This next example is a slope formula problem with a twist. Okay? So it says, and this is the kind of thing that tends to show up on a standardized test. They're not very often going to just ask you a straightforward find the slope question. But they might ask you this. They find out a different way. It says find the value of r so that the line through 1, 4, and negative 5r has a slope of 1/3. Has a slope of 1/3. Little m stands for slope, so they're telling you that m equals 1/3. Now we also know, using the slope formula, that m equals y2, and look what y2 is. It's not a number. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Everybody with me on filling the numbers in and the r? The directions tell us to find r. M equals 1/3. So replace the letter m right there with 1/3. So 1/3 equals r minus 4 over, and I'm going to simplify that, negative 5 minus 1. What's negative 5 minus 1? Negative 6, right? And now we have a proportion we can solve. We spent days solving proportions not all that long ago. You guys with me? Let's use cross products. I need to multiply the 3 times the r minus 4. So 3 times r is 3r. 3 times negative 4, negative 12. And then I need to multiply the 1 times the negative 6 and get negative 6. Add 12, divide by 3. So, if we go back up here to this, if we replace the letter r with a 2, and then we do the slope formula again, you know what the answer will be? 1/3. That's what we just figured out. Any questions on this one? This is the kind of problem that it's not all that hard unless you've never worked one like this. And then you're like, what do I do? When I added 12 right here, negative 6 plus 12 is a positive 6. All right, let's do another one like that. Do this one. Find r so that the slope equals negative 5. Did anybody get stuck right there where I put the purple check mark? What you needed to realize at that point was put that over a 1, now you got yourself a proportion. Okay? Because I kind of thought you might get stuck right there. Put it over 1, it's a proportion. At that point, you should know what to do. Everybody come up with 0 like I did? Any questions? All right. Our last method for finding slope. All right, we found slope with a graph by counting. We found slope with the slope formula when we had 2 points on a line. And now we're going to find the slope by looking at the equation of the line. And you've got to remember this. You've got to remember intercept form of a linear function. Remember y equals mx plus b? That's the form our equation needs to be in. Because if our equation is in this form, whatever the coefficient of x is, that's the slope of the line. When they give us the equation in slope-intercept form, these are really easy problems. They're not always going to give it to us in slope-intercept form. But let's start off with them giving it to us in slope-intercept form. So number 1 here, I'm just going to compare this to y equals mx plus b. Whenever our equation is solved for y, all right, y equals, put the x term on the right side of the equation, put the x term in front, and then there's usually going to be a number. Put the number last. So it needs to go from left to right. Your equation looks like this. It needs to be the y on the left, then the equals, then the whatever x, then the plus a number or minus a number. Okay? When it's in that form, it's in slope-intercept form. And when it's in that form, whatever the coefficient of x is, that's what m is. And what does m stand for? Slope. So the slope of this line is negative 5/2. Done. Then let's look at number 2. Is number 2 in slope-intercept form? Yep. What's the slope of number 2? Negative 4/3. See how it works? So wouldn't it be sweet if they always gave us these equations in the right form? Yes, it would. But they don't. Like this one. It's not as bad as you think it's going to be. Okay? So let's take a look at number 7. This definitely is not in y equals mx plus b form. How do we get it in that form? By solving it for y. So if I'm going to solve it for y, first I want the 3y, and I want the y on the left. Technically it doesn't have to be, but put the y on the left. So I want the 3y to stay where it is. I want the 8x to go away. So in other words, I need to subtract 8x from both sides. On the left side, 8x minus 8x is 0. Copy down the 3y. Now on the right side, the negative 9 doesn't have an x with it. So negative 9 and negative 8x are unlike terms. We can't actually add them together or subtract them. So we have a choice. We need to either write it as negative 9 minus 8x. We need to write negative 8x minus 9. Which way is going to match up to that the best? The second way. So I'm not going to write it that way. I'm going to write it that way. Okay? Now, There's one thing keeping this from being y equals, and that's the 3. So I need to divide by 3. Here's the thing. You got to divide everything by 3. So I divide that by 3. I divide that by 3. I divide that by 3. You've got to divide everything by 3. So on the left side, 3y divided by 3 is y. Perfect. That's what I wanted. On the right side, 3 doesn't divide evenly into negative 8. Who cares? We're fine with slope as a fraction, aren't we? So just call it negative 8/3 x. Do not get your calculator out and try and turn that into a decimal. We like slope to be a fraction. So getting negative 8/3 is great. The hardest part of these is always at the end. Sometimes that division might be a little troublesome. Okay? But in this case, we're okay. So, what's the slope of this line? Negative 8/3. Okay? Any questions on number 7 here? All right, let's do number 8 together. For number 8, I want the 5y to stay where it is. So that means I need to subtract 4x from both sides. 4x minus 4x is 0. Copy down the 5y. And then either negative 10 minus 4x or negative 4x minus 10. Negative 4x minus 10. Now we divide everything by 5. And by everything, I mean everything. 5y divided by 5 is y. Now, 5 does not divide into negative 4. I don't care. Negative 4/5 x. And then 5 does divide into negative 10. We get a negative 2. What's the slope of this line? Negative 4/5. Now, when what we're supposed to do is find the slope, if I mess up right there, can I still get the right slope? Yeah. Okay? So don't get discouraged if you mess up there. You're still going to get the correct slope. So far, so good? All right. Number 13. Believe it or not, it's already in y equals mx plus b form. No, not 1. What's missing? What do you not see written on number 13? The mx, right? So it's y equals blank x, and then plus negative 1. Let's just put minus 1. Now, since on the actual equation we didn't see an x term, what could fill in that blank so that you wouldn't see an x term? 0. Isn't it true that 0 times x is 0? And we wouldn't bother writing in 0 minus 1, would we? We'd just put negative 1. So that means that what must be there when it's in slope-intercept form is a 0. So the slope is 0. Y'all follow me on that? Okay. Do number 14 on your own. Solve it for y. 14 is not like 13. It's like the 2 we did just a minute ago. Solve it for y so that you put it in slope-intercept form. Did you start off by subtracting x from both sides? So you got 5y on the left, and then negative x minus 15 on the right. What do we do next? Divide everything by 5, like that? Okay. Now, on the left side, 5y divided by 5 is just y. I was a little worried about what right here. What's negative x divided by 5? Not negative 5x, negative 1/5 x. And I'm thinking that you might be thinking, how come? Whenever you don't see a coefficient of x, isn't it always a 1? So it's negative 1 divided by 5 times x. Y'all catch that? And then negative 15 divided by 5 is negative 3. Now that you've got it in slope-intercept form, what's the slope? Negative 1 over 5. Questions? All right, we're ready for our worksheet.